color commentator for the Vols. Everybody's looking at the quarterback situation. You watched a lot of spring practice. You're all over it. You know what it looks like, what a quarterback is supposed to look like. What is your take on how this quarterback situation is going to unfold, and will it be a clear-cut decision going into the season, or is it something that might take a couple of those first non-conference games to get it right?
I think it's going to take a while. They got 5 guys in that room now, and 2 of them are transfers. One transfer they haven't even seen yet, a kid from Michigan, and a freshman that didn't get to play in spring ball that's supposed to be pretty good. So I don't know what's going to happen. 5 guys is too many. You can't get 5 guys enough work to tell anything. So I don't really know what they're going to do with that. A small sample size, Harrison Bailey, to me, probably stood out in the spring game compared to the rest of the guys. He looked more comfortable, more under control, threw the ball really well. Now, I don't know if he's the type of guy that they really want. They may see this kid from Michigan being a guy that can run around and make plays. That might be what they want. I think we're just going to have to hold our breath and see what happens after fall camp.
And Hendon Hooker, that's the other wild card, right? You look at him coming in, and what might he be able to do?
Yeah, he had a good career over there at Virginia Tech, and he looked good. He's got a good arm, moves around well. I'll say this: I didn't see anybody really, separate themselves. Mm-hmm. Where you look at there and say, okay, this guy, he's it, and hopefully one of these guys can develop into an it guy, because in the SEC, in college football, if you don't have a roster like Alabama's and Florida's and people like that, you need a stud quarterback, and hopefully one of these guys can turn into that.
What's the update on Caden Salter? What's the story with this kid? I know he was suspended, but what's the deal now?
I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. He's working. He's over there working out. He's not suspended anymore, I don't believe. Mm-hmm. But he's a typical freshman. Came in, made a bonehead move, and paid for it. And missing spring practice is a big deal. It's really hard to just walk in there and have your first practice in fall camp, because you haven't got a lot of time to show your stuff and learn everything. It's going to be tough for him to compete, I think.
Yeah, especially when Bailey goes, what was he, 12 of 15 for 260 yards or so in the spring game, and it would feel like that's what it feel like. If they were prepping for a game this week, it feel like that Harrison Bailey is the guy that has to be beat out.
Yeah, and that would be my impression. But there's a lot of football that happened before that first kickoff, and as you said before, I don't know that it's all going to be settled by that time. They might play 2 or 3 of them. Just let them go and see, and let them fight it out in these games.
Yeah, we know they got really nice facilities there. I couldn't believe when I saw this stat the other day that it had been 15 years now since Tennessee beat a top 10 team, and it blew my head up, because I'm one that believes. Look, we're in Alabama. We're a border. We're our show bleeds into Tennessee. We're here in North Alabama. I'm one that believes that the SEC is just a better place with a strong team in Tennessee. I just think that if you got something good up there on the hill, you got something going on that creates those rivalries, not only with Alabama but with Florida. A team that can push Florida and Georgia in the East. They're not there right now. But can it still be a destination place again? Because it always was, Phil always was a guy that recruited across the country. He brought guys in from everywhere, not just from Tennessee. But I think high school football in the state of Tennessee is in a better place than it's been in a long, long time. There's a lot of good players right in the region. Can it be that kind of place again if they can just get a little spark going where you can get the kids on campus and say, this is where you want to be?
Yeah, I think it can. You mentioned, when Fulmer was coaching and they were winning big, he was pulling kids out of all these other states. Back in those days, there was a number of these SEC teams that were really down. Georgia was down. LSU was down. There wasn't any Clemson to deal with. So he went into all these other states and pulled out the best players. You can't do that anymore. Everybody's gotten better. SEC's got so much money that all these schools are pumping it in there, and they're all improving their programs. Whereas we've had it on pause mode for about 7 or 8 years, and that's an eternity in college football. So I think this season will go a long way. I really believe that they have an opportunity to. If they don't win 6 games at least, I'll be shocked. I think they got a chance to win 7 or 8. I really do with that offense. So if you can do that, you start sparking more interest in your program, and you get better players.
They win 7 or 8 games. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that would definitely open up some eyes. That's for sure. How excited are folks up there about the baseball team? I mean, I know it's a diversion when it comes to football. It's football, and I know Bruce Pearl had the things going pretty good in basketball, and Rick Barnes had it going pretty good in basketball. So that becomes a deal. The women's basketball is not what it was under Pat Summitt. But how fired up are they for baseball up there? Is that all the conversation right now?
Oh, they're rabid. It's crazy. It's a perfect example. If you win and you put a good product out there, the Tennessee fan base, they're going to go nuts for you. And they've been dying to do that for football for a long time. Basketball's been good, and they're rabid for that. But the baseball thing right now, people are crazy for it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, Pat Ryan has been our guest. Pat, congrats on getting the job in the booth. Have fun with it. I'm sure that you will, and I'm keeping your number, so hopefully we'll be able to reach out to you and talk some Vols football again down the road.
Hey, call me anytime.
All right, thank you, Pat Ryan.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what, when we come back, I'll run the schedule for you. I think the Pitt game, Game 2, I think that's the tipping point for what kind of a season can Tennessee have. SEC Media Days is when I predict the records of every single team in the SEC. And you can't have everybody winning 8 games because it's a zero-sum world. It's got to even out. If you say that Tennessee's going to lose to Florida, you have to say that Florida's going to beat Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? I'll run their schedule for you next. It's the Tom Abraham Show, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You're listening to the Tom Abraham Show on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
With an impressive roster of explosive young superstars and the reigning MVP, the Atlanta Braves are showing the East what they're made of.
1-1 on the way. He connects it. It's a high fly ball to deep right field, way back towards the seats, and this ball is gone!
Your new home of the Atlanta Braves.
Hit high in the air to deep right center field. We are tied!
97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Chad, cue the cheesy Italian music. So you're
and will always do whatever it takes to get everything you deserve.
If you're injured, you worry about getting well, not about paperwork or insurance companies or figuring out how to get to your lawyer's office. I'll come to you.
We worry about your case so you don't have to.
When you've been injured, we know that your case is probably the biggest thing going on in your life, more important than almost anything else.
And it's important to us too, for one simple reason. Family takes care of each other, and at the Lackey Law Firm, we'll take care of you.
The Lackey Law Firm. The Lackey Law Family. 1-800-4-RIGHTS.
No representation is made that the quality of the legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers.
Hey there, Bob Baumhauer here. I hope all of you are well. These are trying times we're experiencing right now, and I want you to know that we at Baumhauer's are committed more than ever to providing a legendary dining experience to everyone. Everyone is important to us, and everyone is welcome. Please allow us to serve you in a way that makes you feel safe, appreciated, welcome, and special. Because we're all special in the eyes of the ones and the one that counts. God bless.
From the WZDX Pinpoint Weather Center, I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman. Another mostly cloudy or overcast day with scattered showers and thunderstorms across a good majority of North Alabama, southern and middle Tennessee. Some of us could pick up an additional inch and a half of rain by the time we get to Friday afternoon. On Thursday, temperatures only climb into the upper 70s and lower 80s, dropping into the lower 70s as we head into the overnight. The rain chances are finally going to begin to back off by the time we head into the weekend. Temperatures are also going to climb. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jordan Dressman on your home for ESPN Radio, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Listen to The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. Weekday afternoons starting at 5 on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
So Grizz is playing around. With the video feed of the show, ostensibly for tomorrow morning. It's not bad, Grizz. I'm looking at it on the Twitch. So is it on the YouTube now too, Grizz? Is it on our YouTube channel? YouTube 97 or at 97.7 ESPN The Zone on YouTube? Is it there as well?
Oh yeah, it should be streaming everywhere.
Really?
YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook.
It's a different look. It doesn't have all that skin and stuff like that we had before, but we can play around with that. I mean, at least it gets us back into business. So that's interesting. We'll have to tweet out the link and at me in there, and then I'll tweet it out to my Twitter followers, and then they can go ahead and check it out again. So now here we are. We're back in experimental mode. We're back into beta mode. You guys can I didn't know, Grizz. Luckily I got a clean T-shirt on. It's a great T-shirt. It's not a white T-shirt. It's a great T-shirt.
Yeah, no, I'm just kind of playing around with it right now. I was just kind of afraid that it just wouldn't sound as good or look as good, and no, it looks good. And I think maybe we could do something with your title and everything else. But other than that, I think it looks fine.
That could be a little bigger, probably. That thing could be expanded.
Oh, I can make it expand, but the only problem is I think the dog got cut off every time I went up a little bit more. So
gotta have the dog.
We'll figure it out. It's all new to us.
The other thing is that then we have to now. You have a camera on your side of the control room, right?
Right, no? And I don't have it connected.
It's not hooked up right now, but yeah, that's the next level. Not now, but I mean, the next step would be hooking that up, and then we would be side by each, and except for in interviews, Joe would just leave it at me.
Oh yeah,
during the interview section. Text window is open if you want to jump in on that and comment. 732-982-7469 about defenses. Since the SEC has started playing what looks like a lot of Big 12 football, I've lost a bit of interest in it. It's not, believe me, it's not nowhere near as bad as the Big 12. The great teams in the SEC, okay, are still playing very good defense. All right, Auburn plays very good defense. It's just their offense hasn't been up to snuff. But Auburn has played good defense in the last few years. Alabama's still playing very good defense relative to the defense that you see now around the country. Florida doesn't play terrible defense. Georgia doesn't play terrible defense. All right, I promised you some detail, but I was rattling on about the video feed. which I'm kind of happy about. Grizz is making me happy.
I try. I may not listen.
No, but you are making me happy right now.
But I am making you happy.
Maybe there's other crap you can scrape off of that computer. I don't know. I don't know what's on there. Help it be faster and faster. All right. Hour number one's in the hopper. When we come back, Brian Hoke will join us from MLB.com. This is going to be a fun interview. He's got a new book out, too. It's all coming up right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
They're
didn't call, but the kids in Alabama did. And now, I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
Interested in becoming a licensed high school official? Go to highschoolofficials.com to learn more and begin the application process.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
This is SportsCenter.
Good morning, I'm Doug Brown. In Milwaukee tonight, Game 3 for the Bucks and Nets. Brooklyn up 2-0 in that series. Once again tonight, no James Harden, no Jeff Green for the Nets. Coverage starts 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and TV. To be followed on ESPN by Game 2, Clippers and Jazz. Utah took Game 1. Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova beats Tamara Zidansek in the French Open semifinals today. The second semifinal will be Barbara Krejcikova against Maria Sakkari. Today in Oklahoma City, Game 3 at the Women's College World Series, Florida State and Oklahoma.
Is your dad's razor older than you are? Get him something new for Father's Day. A DSC 6-blade razor is perfect for an extra close, precise shave. Get one now at a store near you, or as part of a gift set at DollarShaveClub.com/Greeny. That's DollarShaveClub.com/Greeny.
When we say local, we mean local, not Birmingham.
Loser.
We are the only sports talk station in Huntsville. It's all right here. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
You've got a magical glow.
You need to be more like a dog.
Like what you guys are doing. You've got your fingertip on the pulse of your listeners. Guys know what they're talking about.
Be a dog.
God bless the show. You are the Messiah.
We need more dogs.
This is the best show on radio.
The big dog, Tom Abraham, is here with you.
Hey, I see you. I see you, dog.
So settle in and get your bark on.
That's my dog.
Now live. Here he is, the big dog.
Let's go, baby!
Tom Abraham.
How you doing? 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 How you doing?
Look, I don't speak Spanish.
I don't know how to say this, so I'm going to choose my words very carefully. I think you're a psycho.
Do you know who I am?
I mean, that guy sounds like El McPherson farting into Miles Davis' trumpet.
I guess I'm on here. Am I on? Can somebody respond? Get off my elbow. I have to drag my Yankee ass out of here.
Garrett, did you use anything differently or any different products than you normally would have because of what's going on tonight or from previous starts?
You know, I hesitated yesterday on the specificity of the question because I just don't think this is the forum to discuss, you know, those kinds of things. Like I mentioned in, answer to Lindsay's question that there's appropriate time for players to discuss those things, and I'll keep it to that forum.
Yeah. We'll keep it to that forum and know that there's a specificity. I don't even know what the hell he just said. Welcome back. Do you ask that question if you're in the room? You know what I mean? Can you ask that question, or is it different when you're doing all of these press conferences and everything by Zoom? Which brings us to our next guest, Brian Hoke, who does a tremendous job covering the Yankees for MLB.com. And the last time we had him on, he wrote a book called The Inside Story of the Next Yankees Dynasty, which I was very excited about. Read it very end-to-end, cover to cover, very quickly. And got two guys on there that might not even have been with the Yankees this year, the way things have been going lately. But, things are starting to turn around a little bit, so maybe that dynasty thing will still come to fruition. He joins us now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline, Brian Hoke. Brian, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Yeah, that seems like a long time ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, you had Aaron Judge on there, who's hot as a pistol right now on the cover. Gary Sanchez, which I thought, we're all gnashing teeth when Gary Sanchez, but he's starting to come around a little bit. And then Luis Severino, who's in the witness protection program. We don't never know when we're going to see him again. So.
Yeah, the 2017 Yankees, who were a fun ride, and they had it looked like they had a lot of runway ahead of them. And now I think that window's closing a little bit here, and they've been on the outside looking in, trying to get to a World Series that they haven't gotten to yet. So, maybe we all got caught up in the moment a little bit there. But let's talk about the 2021 team and how this team is trying to get back on track here after a period where, they've really been hot and cold. They at times they've looked very good in May, but then most recently, right before this trip to Minnesota, it looked rough. They had lost 8 out of 13 and were just not scoring runs. And then, wouldn't you know it, a trip to Target Field and to play the Twins has just been the tonic for them. And they put up 17 runs the last 2 nights. So that's what this team needs to do. They're built around the home run.
Yeah, well, they need to just keep playing the Twins. Whether the Twins are good or bad, it always seems to be the tonic for the Yankees, that's for sure. And we're a Braves affiliate. We got Braves baseball coming up right after the show today. And it's weird because it feels like, the Braves are struggling to get to 500. They finally got there, and then they get beat last night by a kid that gets his first home run in Major League Baseball, and it's a walk-off and knocks him back a game behind 500. But it feels like the Braves are a lot closer to overtaking the Mets and taking over the National League East and so on. And then here's the Yankees, who are now 4 games over 500, but it feels like they're miles away. And, they'd only be a game or so out if they were in the National League East. So it's just you got to beat the right teams. The problem is you talked about that little streak they're coming off of, the negative streak. It was against Tampa Bay, and then getting swept at home by Boston for the first time in 10 years is not a good thing. But it feels like they're still a good week to 10 days away from going on one of them streaks where they could go 14-4 and take over the East.
Well, I'll tell you what about this Yankee team. Being down in Tampa the entire spring training, watching them on a day-by-day basis, I never imagined that scoring runs was going to be the problem for this team. It shouldn't have been. I had some legitimate questions about the starting rotation and the health of that, and, I think that's proven pretty true. Corey Kluber pitched a no-hitter, and then one start later he was gone, and nobody knows when he's going to come back. So the pitching has really carried them through the month of May, and really to this point here, without getting a ton of offensive production. Aaron Judge has been probably the one guy in that lineup you don't want to face on a night-by-night basis. I know Giancarlo Stanton hit a couple out last night, and, the Twins they left Randy Dobnak out there to dry. I could not believe he was still in the game after giving up 8 runs, and so they're doing what they're supposed to be doing against a last-place Twins team that really is going nowhere and has been decimated by injuries. The challenge and the question I have about this team is, what do you do against that next level of competition? Because they are in a very tough division, as you mentioned there. They split a 4-game series with the Rays at home. That was okay. Not great, but okay, acceptable, I suppose. But then getting swept by the Red Sox in their own house, that is really just a gut punch for this Yankee team. And, they've got the Blue Jays coming up on this trip, too. They're going to go back up to Buffalo, where they did not have a whole lot of fun last year in 2020. And the Blue Jays are even better. They're a year closer now this year. So the American League East has not really any cupcakes in it. The Orioles are not going anywhere, but the other 3 teams the Yankees have to play in this division are a real pain in the neck.
Yeah, the other part of it, I think, to go all 70s Reggie on you, I think that the straw that stirs the drink might be Giancarlo Stanton. And the thing is that we see these games that he has like this, and he hits these 2 home runs in the game that they're pulling away and blowing somebody out. I want the guy to come up big in a big situation at some point. That's the thing that's the sticking point. It just feels like there's been times where he has been up with men on base at a critical point in a game against a good opponent, and he's striking out on a pitch that's 6 inches off the plate. You know what I mean? That's what I think Yankee fan is waiting for to fully embrace the guy, is for him to come up clutch in a big, big moment.
You know what? He had that stretch in the postseason last year where he caught one of those hot streaks, and those are the most important games of the year. But the problem with those games is they were played in an empty ballpark, right. So no Yankee fans were there to do it. It wasn't at Yankee Stadium. Everybody was just watching it on TV, and the Yankees are playing the Tampa Bay Rays in San Diego, and that's when Stanton's having his best moments as a Yankee. And so it was kind of this it's just not ideal for him to have that quote-unquote Reggie Jackson 3 homers in Game 6 of the 1977 World Series moment. He hasn't really had that yet, so it's not any fault of his. That was the stage they were given. But, and Stanton, the thing with him is, it really is remarkable. He is, as Aaron Boone has called him, he's a unicorn, because he's unlike any other player, any other hitter in the league. You can't teach the way that he swings the bat. It looks like he's just standing still and does not use his lower half at all. And then he'll barrel a ball and hit it 120 miles an hour, and it'll just go over the wall, and it looks like it should be just a line drive to left field or something. So when he squares it up, man, he is so strong. But I don't think that's something you can teach fundamentally, and I think it also means that when he's not right, it looks really, really bad.
He's that kid in Little League, you know what I mean? It's bigger than all the other kids, and gets up there and he kind of gets up to the plate and just kind of swats at the ball, and no pitcher's throwing over 45 miles an hour, so they can't get it by him anyway, and he just bangs the ball out, and you're like, oh, that kid can't take that swing anywhere. You can't play with that, much longer. But
it would definitely not teach that swing to your Little Leaguer. Exactly. That's my point.
So Garrett Cole wrote the foreword to your new book, The Bronx Zoom, which is a phenomenal title. Did you come up with that by yourself, or did the editor say, "Hey, how about The Bronx Zoom"? That's a great title.
I wish I had come up with it myself. I have to give all the credit to my wife, Connie. She was the one who came up with that, and she she knows Yankee history, and we were kicking ideas back and forth. I said, this 2020 season, if they can pull it off, there is definitely a story here. But what do we call it? And she came up with Bronx Zoom, and I said, that's it. No more bets. Like, close. That is the title of the book, and fantastic title. And that's half the battle there, right? Coming up with the title, and then the hard part really comes, and that was writing and researching and doing all the interviews for this book about a crazy year, a year that none of us ever could have anticipated. And, we were fortunate to get through it. Hopefully we'll never have to do one like it again, but it was definitely historic.
Yeah, it's subtitle Inside the New York Yankees' Most Bizarre Season. It may be this season. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't know what you call the one for 2021. First of all, we're still Zooming. Can this stop? I mean, at some point, can we please get the broadcasters in the building? You listened. Well, I don't know if you do, but the NHL playoffs, that series that just ended between the Islanders and the Bruins, that series, the energy of having the broadcasters in the building and everything else, these games that are being done on ESPN and Michael Kay not going to the games, and Paul O'Neill from his bedroom in Florida doing it. I mean, that's enough already. I mean, can we please get the broadcasters at the game and get you guys back in doing these interviews face to face? Because you heard the Garrett Cole comments from last night, but we're still Zooming. When is it going to end?
I was on that call with Garrett Cole too, so I know exactly what you're talking about. It's coming. I can tell you it's coming. I'm not sure when the Yankees broadcasters are going to get back on the road, but I can tell you that it was a big step this week. The reporters now have field access again, which means for the first time since March of 2020, I can actually have a face-to-face conversation with a player and not have to go through a computer or telephone. So that is huge, I think. So it's a big step forward. It's still negotiating ways to get back in the clubhouse. I think that will happen by the end of this year. So 2022, I think we can return to a 2019 mode of operation. I just think it's going slowly, probably more slowly than we would like it to, but big steps this week just in terms of getting field access back and actually being in the same space as the players again.
Anybody that loves the Yankees loves Garrett Cole and the backstory of Garrett Cole as a Yankee fan. Of course, the sign, back from the 2001 World Series and all of that stuff. That's all fantastic, but wow, how painful the last 2 days listening to him answer those questions about that whatever, the sticky substances and everything else, and handed down, and traditions handed down from generation to generation. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Just leave it out there. It really is an uncomfortable deal, and part of that whole thing is his time in Houston, because it always seems like this stuff always comes back in some way, shape, or form to the Houston Astros, and that's when his spin rate kind of jumped up. And then Trevor Bauer, who was a teammate of his in college, piling on, and Bauer's got his own spin rate differentials and everything else. And where are we going with this story? Because this reminds me of Pine Tar, George Brett. Just throw the damn rule out because they didn't know, they never enforced it anyway. Where are we going with this?
Yeah, the Pine Tar game where Brett hits the home run in 1983 off Goose Gossage. I covered the game at Fenway Park in 2014, I believe it was, when Michael Pineda had that slather of Pine Tar on his neck. And I remember talking to guys in the Yankee clubhouse and also in the Red Sox clubhouse that night. And it was generally, look, we know that everybody is using this stuff. We don't mind it. We don't mind the fact that we don't want a fastball in our ear. I'd rather if you're going to be throwing 98, I want to know where it's going, at least have some control of it. But I think that with the Pineda thing, they didn't want it to be so blatant. And I think that's what you're seeing again here. Also, the fact that we now have better technology than we had in 2014. We can actually quantify what it does, how it makes you a better pitcher, to be able to increase the amount of revolutions per minute on your pitches. It makes it spin more, makes it move more, makes it tougher to hit. And so I think that look, Garrett Cole is not alone in this. He tried to say as much as he could without actually saying anything. He was much more forthcoming for the forward of the book. Let me tell you that he was very guarded and careful on the Zoom, but I think he had to be because he didn't want to step in it and outright lie. Because as Aaron Judge said yesterday, 95% of the guys in this league are doing something. So that's really incumbent on baseball. If baseball decides that this is something they must crack down on, and substance X and substance Y are no longer legal, and if you use it, you're out for 10 games immediately, then I think you're going to see offense tick back up, and maybe that's what we need, because, look, the way I've been watching this strikeouts, home runs, and walks, it's not a great on-field product. I'd rather see, I'm not saying I want to see a 20-18 game, but I would like to see a 5-3 or a 6-4, and let's see some action. Let's see guys running around the base again, because that's the game we all fell in love with growing up.
Yeah, I just want to see the ball in play. I mean, the numbers, however the numbers come out, I want to see the ball in play. I think the shift has something to do with it. I was a guy that for the longest time just said, just go the other way, man. Just start going the other way. I played the game, through my freshman year of college. Just go the other way. You can do it. You're professional hitters. We've seen some of that. But I am getting to the point where, maybe this isn't the way the game was designed to be playing. Maybe there was a reason why there were positions. We do have illegal defense in other sports. Maybe it's time to do that. That would be one thing. And I'm not giving the batters a pass here. I'm not giving the approach a pass here, because it just seems like, they forgot about contact. They forgot about putting the ball on the ground. Everybody's about launch angle and trying to hit the long ball. And so I'm not going to give them a full pass here, because the ball might be spinning a little bit more. I'm not ready to go there.
Hey, I mean, home runs are great. Home runs are the quickest way to put runs on the board. But when you build an entire offense around 9 guys who are just trying to hit home runs, and you don't have anybody else in the lineup trying to do anything else, then I think you run into a big problem. And that's why I think a lot of teams are struggling with that, trying to figure out a way to manufacture offense when they're really not built for that. And the Yankees are not immune to that either. I think that this is a team that when they're hitting 3-run homers, they're going to win a lot of games. I mean, going back to what I said about this team in spring training, the problem is for a long period of time, they just weren't hitting those home runs. And then you're just scoring 2 runs or less. I think they did that in 8 out of 13 games. It's really tough to win when you're only getting 1 or 2 runs a night for your pitchers.
Brian Hoke is our guest. The book is called The Bronx Zoom, Inside the New York Yankees' Most Bizarre Season. This is a book that is going to age well, in as much as that we're so close to it right now. I think we're right on top of it, and so you look at everything that was involved in that 2020 season, including the social justice issues. I mean, it wasn't just about the pandemic. We had the social justice, then we tried to play baseball, and we empty stadium. I am not one that likes any of the awards they did. The MVP for Freddie Freeman, he had a good 60-game run. I don't even call the Los Angeles Dodgers the World Series champions. I call them the 2020 baseball tournament champions, because I think it was a 60-game qualifier for a baseball tournament, and 60 isn't 162. Teams go bad for stretches of 20 and 30 games, and we don't know how they would have held up for an entire season. I don't like any of it. But I think that this is going to be a fascinating book for people to read 10, 12 years from now, and then look back and say, are you kidding me? That's what they did? I think that's going to be the beauty of this book. I mean, I'm glad you wrote it now, but I'm telling you, this is a book that, for the next half a generation, when they look back, we're going to forget how it was, and they're going to read this book then, and people are just going to shake their heads and say, I can't even imagine that.
I hope you're right. No, that's a great compliment. I appreciate that, and that was part of the motivation behind doing it, because looking back at last year, that 60-game sprint to the finish, that felt unlike any other season we've ever experienced before. But I would say that once they did actually get into the postseason, you felt like the stakes were real. Like I wondered how people were going to look at that, and were they going to look at it as just kind of a championship tournament, as you mentioned there. Would it be on par? But in so many ways, this was a more challenging year than any other because of what the players had to go through, what the players, coaches, the teams had to go through. You had not just the competition, the 9 innings on the field, but you had to kind of motivate yourself, because you didn't have the fans there to kind of push you to that next level. A lot of these guys, I talked to, for example, Zach Britton, who's one of the pitchers on the Yankees. When they restarted baseball and he went up to New York for summer camp, he hugged his wife and kids goodbye, and then he couldn't see them again until the American League Division Series was over. So he went for months without seeing his family. A lot of guys did not have their friends and family, their usual support group. So I got a lot of stories in the book about how the human side of that, and how guys were able to cope with that. Of course, like most of us, they were kind of just doing Netflix and that kind of stuff. But the Yankees were very good about renting out ballrooms in the hotels where they went to. These hotels were mostly vacant anyway, and they would order in, Pop-A-Shot basketball machines and ping pong tables and whatever they could to kind of have the players, interact with each other. So in a year where that was really defined by distance, I thought that the 2020 Yankees, and I'm sure you could have done this book about the 29 other teams as well, but I happen to be on the ground with the Yankees. I thought that they had to bond with each other and probably formed a closer bond than in a normal year because there was nobody else outside of their bubble. Like, they really had to just lean on each other. And I think that, as you mentioned, 10 years down the line, if these guys bump into each other at Old Timers Day or whatever it is, they're going to remain bonded because they went through this shared experience, this pandemic, this social justice movement, this presidential election that was just stealing the headlines and that you couldn't look away from. There was so much going on in 2020 that I think these guys are really going to stick together because of it.
The Bronx Zoom, and it just came out. Great Father's Day gift, so go ahead and snag this wherever you get your books. It's called The Bronx Zoom. Brian Hoke is the author of it. He has been our guest. Listen, it's a thing. There's no doubt about it. It was a thing, and that's what's going to be great about this book, taking us behind the scenes of this whole thing. And I don't deny it. It was a difficult thing, but it was a different thing. If you know what I mean. You know what I mean? It was a thing that I can't compare to any other baseball season. It's a different thing. When they want to say that the Dodgers set the record, and I know this sounds bitter about the Dodgers, but they just say the Dodgers set the record for winning percentage. No. 60 games. They tell me you win 100, and when you tell me you won 120 games, then I'll look at that as a record for winning percentage. You didn't have the opportunity to have that month and a half where you went 30 and 40. You just didn't have that. So that's why I say it's a thing, but it's a different thing, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. It was unlike any season that's ever been played before it, and like I said, hopefully one will never have to go through again. But I think that it was challenging in so many respects, and it was an achievement just to actually have a season because there were long periods in April and May where I said, I'm not walking into Yankee Stadium this year. It's not going to happen. They're not going to play a single game this year. And they not only did they do it, they got through the season. There were so many twists and turns. The Marlins had 18 guys test positive, and the season seemed in jeopardy, but somehow Major League Baseball pulled it off, and I think that in itself is an achievement.
Always a pleasure, Brian. I want to reach out to you every now and again when you're not writing a book, but you seem to write a book every 2 years. So maybe maybe that'll be the way it is. But can't wait to have you back on the field and in the certainly in the clubhouse and have you guys be able to do these things face to face. Who was it that asked the question, by the way, of Garrett Cole? That wasn't you, right? That asked the question about the substance.
It was not me. No, the question that went viral, that was Ken Davidoff of the New York Post. And, the beauty of that was that, they should teach that in journalism classes because that was a very direct question to Cole and just said, have you ever used Spider Tack? And there's no way to say no to that if the answer is yes. So he tried to walk around it, but, I think that's the reason it went viral. And, like I said, someday when I teach a journalism class, maybe we'll use that clip.
Look, man, you know about keyboard warriors, though. You know how it is with people that they can do with Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I want to see a guy sitting in front of the guy and ask that question. I just wonder if it would be just slightly different. You know what I mean? If you had the stones to ask that question when you're face to face with a guy, as opposed to when you're on a Zoom call, it'll be interesting.
I will say the one thing about Zoom is that it's tougher to ask a follow-up question. So you really just have to do kind of a quick hit the way that I'm talking about there. And now we're getting a little inside baseball, but when they unmute your line, you got one shot at it, and you get the answer, but it's tougher to get a follow-up in. You got to use the raise hand function and everything. So in real life, I don't need to use a raise hand function. I can't wait to get back to that.
It's like those commercials. I love those commercials on MLB. For MLB Network. With the I see them on the extra innings. Where the players are asking questions of the commentators at the MLB Network, and it's like a live press conference. But hopefully we'll have that soon again. All right, man. Appreciate you as always.
You got it. Take care.
All right, thank you, Brian Hoke. It's good stuff, man. It's good. Look, it's behind-the-scenes stuff. Not about the Yankees, just about the behind-the-scenes stuff of covering a team and what that season was. I'm sorry. Look, Grizz, I know he's your guy. But Freddie, he was the MVP of that. But that's not an MVP like an MVP. We don't know if Freddie plays 155 games. You know what I mean? We don't know if Freddie holds up. He had a wonderful 60-game start to the season. We have seen, how many players have we seen that get hot for 60 games in August and September or in April and May? It's like being he's the MVP of the first third of the season. Well, that's how that was. That was a little more than a third of a season. I can't equate that to anything else. It was the MVP of that. The Dodgers won the championship of the 2020 baseball tournament. That doesn't feel like a World Series to me. Different.
You don't feel like just because it was shorter, it was a lot harder, though? Like on their minds and on their bodies and just getting acclimated to play baseball?
I don't think on their bodies it would have been different.
Well, right? They didn't really practice before the season, though. It just seemed they didn't have much spring training.
But then they got together. Didn't they go about 3 weeks before they actually started the season? Then they kind of went back to spring training?
I just wonder, like, because I always say that like I don't approve of the Lakers winning the title last year.
Yeah, they won the tournament. Yeah, but listen, when you don't have the crowds, I'll be honest with you, I am reticent to talk about how great the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide are, because and when people want to say that's the greatest team of the Nick Saban era, look, they were incredibly dominant, and yes, I know they didn't have the fan backing at the home games, but one of the biggest things about the SEC is going into those other buildings and in those hostile environments and having to play in front of 90,000 people that want to rip your throats out. That impacts a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid. That's what they are, kids. And that environment did not exist in that 2020 season. This was like 7-on-7 camps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the high school kids that have the 7-on-7 camps. They go and they play, and where are you having a 7-on-7 camp? Well, it's going to be over at Bob Jones. Okay, fine. But it's not like you're playing Bob Jones and there's 5,000 people there that are all against you and pulling for Bob Jones and you're gripping. It's a casual atmosphere. Now, I'm not saying it was it wasn't like a park-like setting, but it wasn't like going into the Lions' den, and playing. You didn't play the SEC championship in front of a packed house in Atlanta. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think I have to hold back when I say even Mac Jones's year, the greatest season in the history of college football and all this other kind of stuff. Okay, fine, but how would Mac Jones have reacted if he was playing some of those games that they played on the road in front of those crowds? Does he throw the 2 passes like he threw at Auburn the year before? I don't. Obviously he didn't. He had a benefit of so there's so many different things that go into it, and I think for baseball it was the same way. It was a antiseptic bubble. I think some players didn't play as well. Some players played better. Some players need a home crowd to get them juiced up. Some players need a visiting crowd can impact the way a player plays. I just think that all has to be put into play.
No, you're right, and I think without fans, obviously, there's not the constant of just like doubt or wonder. You may overthink it a little bit more if there's a crowd there or something may get to you a little bit. I can understand that, but I just think that just to be able to make it through the season, even whether it was a truncated season or not, I mean, just to be able to finish the season, to be able to do everything, even though whether you think this was all a joke not a joke, I should say, last year, but just how everything got handled, whether it was the MLB or the NBA in their bubble or the NHL in their bubble, how everything got handled in each program. I think that just being able to finish a season and to be able to have a 2020 season was something special, and that because of it being shorter, I just see it in my eyes, I just see it as being harder because, like I said, I just don't know if I get it. I see what you're saying where guys get real hot for like so many games or whatever, especially in baseball, and I think it might be different in other sports, how the level of difficulty, I guess I'm saying.
All right, let's grab a break. We'll come back. We are open lines the rest of the way. If you want to react to any of that, you can go ahead and do it. 256-576-4977. 256-576-4977. The strange facts behind what would have happened in the 2019 season had the 12-game playoff been in place. I will explain next. 97.7 ESPN.
This is Wes Neighbors talking to Chris Haygood of Bob Wallace Appliance. Chris, what sets you apart?
At 2317 Memorial Parkway. See our full menu and more at hummusandpita.com.
So I'm gonna watch it on TV.
The game's on. Oh, I almost forgot. I'll be right there.
We like sports and we don't care who knows. From shooting hoops to the Super Bowl. We like sports and we don't care who knows.
Football, tennis, hockey, golf.
The game is starting. Everyone is here. I got my snacks, my friends, and a beer.
So I'm gonna watch it on TV.
Are you ready for football? A Monday night party!
So I'm gonna watch it on TV. So I'm gonna watch it on TV.
I'll tell you what, you got a lot of day baseball going on today. It's getaway day, and on Thursday it's always that getaway day. So you got coming up, you can listen to it right here on the air with the Braves and the Phillies getting ready to go here just in a few moments. We'll get the pregame in there, and the game will start at the top of the hour, 12:05, first pitch for Braves and Phillies. Of course, coming up tonight, big night in the association. They got a little double dip going on. You get Brooklyn and Milwaukee on ESPN as the first game. That is at 6:30 as that series now moves to Milwaukee. Can they get back in it against the Nets, who look unstoppable? And it'll be the Clippers and the Utah Jazz following that. And in the NHL, boom, Game 6 as Vegas tries to close it out against the Colorado Avalanche. I think I'm pulling for the Islanders the rest of the way now because of Barry Trotz. He's a friend, and I got a lot of respect for the way the Islanders play. I did the handshake with my buddy that's an Islanders fan. I did the handshake line with him, even though he's in Florida and I'm in Alabama. I did the handshake with him afterwards. Now I'm going to pull for his team. All right, that's going to do it. Braves are up next. Paul Feinbaum. But the drive later on from Baumhauer. All right here on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.